This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/iHeart. That's greenlight.com/iHeart.
Wasn't that delicious?
So good.
Your bill, ladies?
I got it. No,
I got it.
Seriously, I insist. I insisted first. Oh, don't be silly. You don't be silly.
People with the Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card prefer to pay because they earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors for it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. No!
The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.
Lowe's knows when you're looking for reliability, the right brand makes all the difference. And now, Lowe's is the exclusive home improvement retailer for the Whirlpool water treatment line, including their Wi-Fi softener, under-sink filtration system, and more. With Whirlpool's proven performance and our everyday low prices, better tasting, better quality water is within reach. Shop pro-trusted brands like Whirlpool and more, in-store or online. Lowe's, we help, you save.
Hello to everybody who worked where in your 20s? It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, 1 phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here, and I know not everybody loves a long intro, so if you're not an intro person, you just want to skip like 3.5 minutes this time. That'll put you right towards the beginning of the call. Thanks so much. Enjoy it. Hi everybody, my name's Chris Gethard, and welcome to Beautiful Anonymous, a show where we look at the human condition one anonymous phone call at a time. Thanks to everybody who's been supporting the show. I saw someone recently, we switched from Twitter to Blue Sky. If you want to call the show, follow me over on Blue Sky. Like many people, I was just feeling enough is enough with the Twitter thing. And somebody said something that made me feel so nice, because I've been laughing about how I had 83,000 plus followers on Twitter, and I'm up to 979 on Blue Sky. So maybe we'll break 1,000 soon, everybody. But somebody left a really nice comment. Wolf Trap on Blue Sky said, "Say what you will in the difference in followers between Twitter and Blue Sky, the quality of the calls has been on a wild hot streak since switching over here. Great call, Chris, and thank you, caller, for being such an incredible example of making the most of life." That was in regards to last week's call, which is such a kind thing. And thank you for saying it. Wanted to reiterate to everybody, I'm really going to be hustling hard between now and October. Our 500th episode taping, we're doing a live taping in New Jersey, down on the Jersey Shore in Atlantic Highlands at the Smodcastle Cinemas. It's owned by the filmmaker Kevin Smith. DIY, Jersey, go make a lot of stuff. Stumble into some beautiful things along the way. Guy who inspired me. It's going to be a great time. Buy your tickets, punchup.live/Chris Gethard. We really got to sell this room out for our 500th. And want to let everybody know, we're probably going to have some exclusive merch for the 500th. That will be the first place you'll be able to get it. Andrea and I are kind of figuring out some logical ways that people who sign up for our extra stuff at beautifulanonymous.com will get access to that. And I have some other ideas too on maybe some fan events for some of the people at beautifulanonymous.com, that if you happen to be in Jersey or coming to our Jersey taping, that there might be some other ways that we can hang out. But I don't want to announce all of that just yet, because I don't want to overcommit to anything ridiculous. But it's going to be such a fun day, such a fun time, and I can't wait to do that one. So come on out. Now, today's call, I love today's call. I think a lot of you are too. This is How do I even explain this one, Andrea? I mean, there's one stretch where we're talking about what it's like to work in a brothel. And then in the next breath, we're waxing poetic about the beauty and importance of public libraries. There's talks about neurodivergence. There's talk about witchcraft, Wiccan lifestyles. There's talk about leaving religions. There's all sorts of stuff. But one thing that I'm struck by is the caller has so many things to talk about, but also it doesn't feel all over the map. It feels like there's sections about different things, and they're all categorized with the organization of, dare I say, a librarian who's used to slotting things into individual slots, even though they cover such a wide, diverse array of topics. It's very much the fingerprints of a librarian all over this call. Support the public library, everybody. Support your local coven. Support brothels? You'll have to decide for yourself. Enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going quite well. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Great.
That's good.
I'm sorry, I did not do the, is this Chris?
That's totally fine. I'm glad that you got it in the postmodern, recognizing that you hadn't said it as your way of saying it.
Exactly. Yeah, always meta.
I'll tell you, you asked me how I'm doing. I will say this. I recently got blood work that said my B12 was way too low. So I started taking...
pernicious anemia.
Excuse me?
That's called pernicious anemia.
This is the first I'm hearing about. I have pernicious anemia?
That's what a B12 deficiency is usually called, yeah.
Are you a doctor?
I'm not. I'm a librarian.
Oh, even better. What an answer. I love it. But I tell you, I've been taking a B12 supplement the past few weeks, and I have to say, I don't know how much of it is mental and how much of it is physical. I feel really wide awake and with it compared to where I've been at in recent times. And I'm
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad I got the blood work done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I guess I was lying when I did the reflexive I'm good. I actually have the shingles.
Oh, that's
yeah.
That's
I'm
really
home right
bad.
now with shingles.
Shingles, if I remember.
Yeah, it's a mild case.
It's a mild what?
Yeah, it can be incredibly painful, but I've got a mild case. My only concern was the fact that it was on my face.
Yeah.
And the nerve cluster that is also attached to one of my eyes. So
I've heard. Yeah, I know people who have gotten it on their eyes before. It's brutal. And my understanding is that shingles is very similar to chickenpox, but all concentrated in one place. Is this correct?
Basically, yeah, because the chickenpox virus lives basically inside you. It just lives dormant, and that it's the same virus that causes shingles when you're older.
Damn.
And it just gets triggered by things like, stress and poor immune systems and, things like that.
What's been stressing you out lately that triggered these shingles?
Oh, my gosh. Weirdly, it's not work this time. This time it was my coven because I'm also a witch.
Say what?
I told your producer I've lived many lifetimes.
A librarian witch with shingles? This is very on brand for our podcast.
Yeah. There was some, we changed our structure. We're working on, having flattening the hierarchy. We're going really, because there's a lot of queer people and neurodivergent people, including me. Flattened hierarchy. And we just don't have it quite right. And it got real emotional. Since I have the neurodivergence, I don't deal with emotions very well. So I think that my body reacted with shingles.
So you had a meeting at your witch coven get so tense that you think it brought the chickenpox out in your eye.
Yeah.
I would think that a coven should be about getting back in touch with nature and femininity and Mother Earth and should be relaxing. You don't want a stressful coven. Defeats the whole point of having a coven.
Exactly. Yeah. We were teaching coven, so we run a class, and so we have a little we have a lot of admin, and so it's just been just a little bit of a time with the restructure. So there's some hurt feelings, and it was just really stressful. So but I think that was what pushed me over the edge this week. So
damn, I hate a stressful coven. I hate a few things I love more than a chill coven. Few things I hate more than a stressful coven.
Right.
Who needs that?
No, not my favorite.
Who needs a stressful coven?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm taking a couple of weeks break from that because I got to do a capitalism and survive. So got to concentrate on work. And the extracurriculars have to kind of tone down. So
I get that.
So, yeah.
And how do you like being a librarian?
Oh, it's awesome. I was a public librarian and a public library manager for a little over a decade in the city I'm in, and now I work for the government as a data and planning librarian. But which I think is really, really fun and incredibly nerdy. People's eyes glaze over. But I think what really, what hooked why I took the collar was the fact that I described the brothel receptionist to librarian pipeline.
Excuse me?
Because in my early 20s, for a period of time of about 6 months, I was the receptionist at a brothel. And honestly, it taught me a lot of skills that I use to this day. Basically, when you're a librarian, everything that you have ever done, any book you've ever read, anything you've ever learned will probably become relevant to your job.
What did you learn while being the receptionist at a brothel that applies to your life skills today?
The biggest skill I learned was how to shout a grown man out of a building, which was incredibly useful when I became a librarian.
So you weren't just a phone receptionist.
And also useful.
You were present in the brothel.
I was, yeah.
So you were front of house at a brothel.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Can I ask, was it...
That is what I was.
Or do you live in an area where this is legal, or was this an under...
Oh, no.
This was an underground brothel. You were participating in crime.
Yeah, I was. But, at the age of 22, I had no money and no job, and I had a girlfriend who was also a receptionist at... because it was a chain.
It was a chain brothel.
So she was a receptionist. Yeah, it was called the Massage Club.
So it was
Gentlemen's Massage Club.
So posing as a massage place, but it was more for the happy ending side of things.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, I think at the time, and we're talking like 30 years ago or more now, it was, I think, $60 for 30 minutes or $110 for 60, and tipping was highly encouraged.
Now, you mentioned you had a girlfriend at the time who was doing this, got into. Are you speaking in the sense of like a girlfriend, like a girl as a friend, or a queer relationship?
Oh, queer relationship, yeah. I'm queer, polyamorous, bi, non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. Yeah. All over.
I mean, truly everything about... Just a polyamorous librarian with shingles who's in a stressful coven and used to be a receptionist at a brothel is just AI. This is why AI will never defeat humanity, Because if AI tried to write, like, hey, listen to every Beautiful Anonymous episode and then try to just nail the most prototypical human being who might call this particular show, AI could never. AI couldn't dream you up more accurately than you're already nailing everything this show has built into being over almost 10 years of existence.
Yep.
So when you're working front of house at the brothel, are people constantly coming in, and especially I would imagine as a 22-year-old, are people going like, hey, do you ever offer massage services?
Yeah, no, I got asked. Even though I'm plus size and was plus size then, I still got asked. I also got asked a lot more over the phone. One guy in particular told me he loved my voice and wanted me to come over to his hotel room because he wanted to lick my arm. And but no, I did get propositioned.
Were you ever tempted? Were you ever tempted to cross that line?
No, I wasn't, because I saw the clientele coming in, and I did not want to deal with that.
Wait, because you were laughing too hard for me to understand what you just said. Because what?
No, I saw the clientele coming in, and no, I didn't really want any part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's intense. And you said you sometimes had to chase a guy out. Like what? If a guy came in drunk, or if a guy was like crossing consent. I mean, transactional. There's still consent. This is you are not buying the right to make someone uncomfortable or feel unsafe.
Yep.
And you're 22, and you're the one who has to like pick up a broomstick and be like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, all for the princely sum of $6 an hour under the table.
Wow. You were taking $6, and I would have to imagine there's a world where like the cops kick down the door and you are arrested for promoting prostitution for $6 an hour.
Yeah. Absolutely. I even had one guy from the city come in and try and intimidate me into giving like a freebie, but he wasn't like, he flashed his city badge. Anyway, I just had a couple of the girls come down to back me up. They looked at his badge and then like basically badgered him out of the building.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I think that I would have been charged with profiting off of the avails of prostitution, I think would have been the term. So, yeah.
So you did the research. You knew what the fine was. You knew what the potential community service / prison time was.
I was desperate.
Yeah.
Like, I literally had no income, and I didn't want to be homeless. So, you do what you got to do.
Damn. And is there a cultural divide? Like, as the receptionist, do you get to know the people working in the back? Are you going out for meals after shifts are over with people who have been working as massage therapists in that context? Or is there a divide culturally there?
There's kind of a cultural divide. We were friendly and we supported each other, like I would if I needed to help them kick somebody out, I did. If they would come down and help me. But yeah, no, also I worked the 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. shift. There's no going out for supper after that. Everybody just wants to go home. And go home to their beds and their kids and their partners and stuff. So,
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
But it was, I don't know. I was also really young and I was in university, or I had been in university, but I lost my funding. So it honestly really solidified for me as a female presenting person that women should absolutely be allowed to do what they want with their bodies, what they need to do with their bodies to survive and not be criminalized for it, and should in fact be running this show themselves. Because unfortunately, the place I worked for was of course run by a man. Kind of an old school, almost 70s style, white guy, just kind of gross. So yeah. It was really funny because we did chat, and the girls asked me, "What are you doing here? Weren't you doing women's studies? Isn't this against your feminist principles?" And I was like, "No, it's not. The only thing that I see wrong with this is the fact that you don't get the profit off of this as much as the man who owns the business. You should own the business, run it as a co-op, and make all of the money and keep it."
Look, so you're trying to you're trying to actually almost unionize the staff of the brothel.
Oh yeah. You know what? It's so funny. It is literally the only job, Chris, where I've had to dye my hair back to a natural color and take out my septum piercing to go to work. The only one.
Was this because of the demands of your old school boss?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I've encountered this. I grew up in Quebec, and there was lots of Hells Angels activity in the area that I grew up in. They ran all the strip clubs in the neighboring city, and they also didn't allow you in with colored hair. They kind of wanted, like, a lot of times people want to distance people they think look like undesirables from coming into their establishment. So, or if they look like they might be related to, a group, an alt group or something. So, yeah. So funny. Yeah, the first time I ever went to a strip club, I also wore a hat.
And now you're a librarian, but you don't work. It doesn't sound like you work in the type of library that I take my kid to, where we can go and pull books off the shelf and go talk to you, and it's a community center. It's a government job.
No. Yeah, it's more of an office job now, because I have to say, being a public library manager through COVID, wow, burnt me out really hard.
I bet.
It was rough.
I bet.
Yeah.
People don't realize.
I felt like I was making. Oops, sorry.
No, you felt like you were making what?
Oh yeah, well, because where I am, we the senior management pitched libraries as almost an essential service, so we ended up opening really quite early, I felt, and we're open to the public and having to, it was wild. It was just wild. I felt like I was making life and death decisions for my staff and for the public every day, because we didn't know much at the beginning of the pandemic. And here we are, we're opening up to the public. We're only allowed to have max 100 customers in the building. So we've got line management happening. If we try and hold a program, we have to put dots on the floor to make sure everybody's spaced out in the children's area. And all while we weren't sure if cloth masks or, the surgical masks were working, how it was transmitted. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. I think I worked harder for the public library in the first 6 months of COVID than I'd ever worked in my life. It was a lot.
In the modern day, I think people would be surprised, and I'm interested in the answer. How much of a modern public library is still about the exchange of books, and how much is it a community center and hub that a lot of people might not even realize?
Oh, yeah, that can be hard to quantify because material lending is still kind of the backbone of library service. A lot of it has gone a lot more digital now. But yeah, in library branches, I'd say that more people come into library branches to hang out and read a magazine, hang out on the computer, come to a program, or, we've got teens who come in during lunchtimes and after school to use the computers and hang out with their friends because, the library is the one place that is free where they can also be themselves. And I worked in one suburban library where the children's area on a Saturday. I went in there one day, and I swear there was at least 75 parents and kids packed in there. So yeah, seniors. At one point, I was a regional manager who was overseeing all of our English language learning programs for newcomers and immigrants and refugees, and helping manage the grants for those. So yeah, like public libraries are like they're so not just books. Like it's still a core function, and literacy is still very much a core principle, as is freedom of information and access to information. But especially in the last 10, 15 years, libraries have really transformed and unfortunately seem to be the institution that can catch people falling through the cracks of all of the other kind of social support.
I hear you. Yeah. I sit here and I go, I grew up in a suburban town in New Jersey, but there were a lot of layers and I look back, it was a very fascinating place to grow up because a very diverse town, both in the way that I think a lot of people think of that knee jerk, as far as lots of different pockets of people with different backgrounds all over town, but also a lot of class diversity. And I will tell you, I think of the library a lot. I think that, there's much smarter people than I who study this, but when you start to read, you go, so many, and especially in the States, you go, there are so many issues in the States where people find themselves getting really angry, where you can actually say that a lot of it is class conflict being dressed up as other things. That you look at people who are so worked up about immigration. You can look at a lot of issues related to race. You can look at a lot of issues related to housing, to job opportunities, to all sorts of things. And you can go, there are many ways in which those things all connect to other stuff, but they all connect to class on some level too. And a library, I know in my town, the library happened to be, up until a couple of years ago, I think they just moved it in my hometown of West Orange, New Jersey. It was down the hill, which is what it sounds like. I grew up down the hill. This was the not as nice part of town. And they just moved it to an area of town that's kind of known as the dividing line, where now you're up the hill. And I'll say it really bums me out, because the public library and the town pool, which not a lot of the rich people used, but the library, yes, there's so much kids programming. It was one of the only reasons that someone from the nicer part of town needed to go to the less nice part of town. And just there, on a certain level, you go, the library is a powerful institution. The library is a thing that if you want to access all this programming with your kids, in my particular town, I knew, there were kids from up the hill who I never saw. I would see the kids from the other down the hill neighborhoods. We'd cross over in certain parks, or there were certain boundaries to our neighborhoods. The up the hill kids, you really only saw them at the library. And it was a reason that we had to come together as a town. I also know that even in my suburban town, there were people in there where the modern day, I was a kid where this wasn't a factor, but I go, there's people where there's no other place for them to charge their phone. But the phone is a thing that might be the lifeline to them getting a job. And the library is a place that's not going to chase you out if you need to plug in. Or maybe you don't have access to a place with Wi-Fi. Maybe you don't have a home, or maybe you have a home where Wi-Fi is an expense you can't afford and you have a Zoom interview. Well, maybe the library is a place that can help you get set up to put on some headphones and go do that Zoom interview. It's a place where people who don't have access to shade can get into air conditioning. And that might sound silly, but that's a real factor in a lot of places. It's a place that has water fountains in neighborhoods that might not have water fountains in the parks for kids. You sit there and you go, a library, yes, is it an exchange of information? It's also an exchange of culture. It's also a level playing field where it doesn't matter if you have a trust fund with $1 billion in it or if you can't make your monthly car payment. Everyone needs to access the library at some point, and everyone comes together, and it's a leveling space. And I think that's really important, really beautiful, and there are so few spaces like that. There's so few spaces like that left. Let's pause right there as we all just take a moment to remember the importance, the badass nature of the public library. It's a beautiful thing. We got some ads. We'll be right back. So happy to tell you about some amazing things happening at Audible, a company that I love. They've supported me so much over the years. And I'm so happy to tell you that Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what romance you're into, you can't be pinned down, unless, of course, you want to be. Here is your invitation to have it all. Maybe you fancy a dalliance with a duke or perhaps a sexy billionaire. Find a book boyfriend in the city and another on the hockey field. Or if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Hear modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest Romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, and Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander, plus all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/beautiful. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. I will tell you, I'm out here, and as anyone who listens to this podcast knows, I have like 6 full-time jobs, and they add up into sort of one big job, but it goes in 10 different directions at any different time, and I'm getting pushed and I'm getting pulled, and some of them I need certain things for, and then others don't cross over with that. It's wild. I'm out here running a small business, so I know you can't have things that are just a drain on your time and energy. Hiring shouldn't be a hassle. You should be able to do it in your budget. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check, all in one place. Do you know the secret to businesses that are scaling faster than ever? They're using Upwork to tap into a diverse pool of skilled freelancers across various industries. We all know when you're in that small business world, you have got to wear so many hats. But sometimes what you really need is an extra pair of hands. Upwork is how good companies find great and trusted freelance talent. There's over 2 decades of experience here and one simple and ambitious goal: to pioneer a better way of working. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way they staff key projects and initiatives. By accessing a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web development, AI, design, admin support, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. There's no cost to join. You just register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post. You can even book a consultation. And from there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. Thanks again to all the advertisers who help our show exist. Now let's get back to the phone call. There's so few spaces like that left.
Yeah, exactly. You described it beautifully. It's often known as a third space, the space that's not your home, not your work, not your school, right? So it's kind of that you're exactly right. It's that kind of other. It's the third space, and it is where everybody at every level of society can and will be in the same building, in the same room, sometimes doing the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that libraries are also moving into a little bit more has been food security. It started before COVID, unfortunately, but really ramped up.
It's a beautiful thing. And you start to read into it too. And libraries are, I love that there's digital programs. I love that you can become, like, I believe the New York Library, people will know better than I should know this. I think the New York Public Library, you can become a member even if you don't live in New York and digitally access what they have, which is wild to think about. That's massive. And there's a lot of massive cities that have their libraries all access, even if you don't live there. The digital side of things is good, but the library as a space and the library as... Because that phrase third space, I've talked about it on the show. There was that article in The Atlantic last year that blew my mind about you have to have... It can't just be work and home. You need third space. You need a third space for a healthy life. The library occupies not just that vital third space for a lot of people, but it is also quietly, and I don't try to go political, but let's point it out. You mentioned you're Canadian, so you have more access to this, but in the States, I sit here and go, how many people who claim that they don't like anything about socialism are also bringing their kids to summer programs at a public library every summer, are taking advantage of all of those offers, are making their family's experience tied in intimately with a library, and not realizing that public libraries are one of America's most successful socialist institutions that have become accepted in all sorts of communities, including communities that might have a knee-jerk, borderline hateful reaction to the idea of socialism and not realize, do you use your public library? You're participating in a positive style of socialism. Yeah, exactly. And you can also look at it as a very democratic institution because it really does level the playing field. So it's got a lot going for it. But you're right. In terms of socialism, it's really quite subversive. And it's one of those things where if somebody came up with the idea of libraries today, it wouldn't happen because people would be like, nah, that'll never work. Or why would we throw money in buy your own books? Right? Why we all have to share books? Buy your own books. Books aren't, go buy your own books. What are we doing? No. Yeah. I don't want to buy my own books. The history of libraries is so interesting. Yeah. I love because what they used to be is mainly private libraries, and then private libraries becoming open to the public, but only certain members of the public, right? So only men, no women, no Black people, sometimes no Irish people or Italian people or Lebanese, right? So it's they've changed so much, and I just think they're such really great and important spaces for all of the reasons that you've mentioned. And I knew that in my 20s because after the brothel gig, I needed to find work, and I didn't have a home computer. My public library was literally where I made my resume. I looked for jobs. Everything for me came from the library. I read a lot of books. I could pick up movies. I could pick up music. I could go up and ask the librarians in the reference section to help me with research. It was really vital to me in my 20s. And when I went back to school to do my master's to do this when I was 37, it was because I was finally in a place where I was stable and felt like I want to give that back to people because I had that. And it's been tremendous. The first month I worked at my first public library job, it was tax season. And one of the big things that we do here in Canada is we have a
a volunteer income tax program for basically the entirety of March and April. Organizations across the country partner with the Canadian Revenue Agency and provide trained volunteers to help low-income folks do their taxes. Because government forms are really intimidating. I've got a master's degree, and they give me the sweat. And say your literacy level is low or your confidence level is low. Having somebody else be able to do your taxes, like with you or for you, can be really important. But the thing, and I might choke up a little bit because, so I was a month into my first job and it was tax season because I started in February. So, and I saw one of the folks that regularly came in who I chat with. He came in and then he went and got his taxes done. I saw him come down the stairs and he was almost in tears. So I went over to see how he was doing, and he was almost in tears because he was so happy. The volunteer who was trained to do taxes knew to tick off one little box that he would never have ticked off that got him, I think, like a $1,500 tax return that year that made a huge impact in his life. And I was like, yeah, this is why I'm here.
I love that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, and so good. And like, I lived in kind of the rougher part of town for a good 15, 17 years, I think. And I eventually got to be manage the library in that area. I got kind of flown in. I got, pulled from the libraries that I was managing and flown in kind of because the other manager was really burned out and staff were very unhappy. I have nothing to fear from that neighborhood. I'm part of that neighborhood. And while I don't live in that neighborhood anymore, when I started working there, I didn't live there, but people remembered me. And they were like, "Oh, I haven't seen you around." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I moved to a different part of town, But like the kids in that neighborhood, because the libraries in our province are often built, especially in like our largest city, next to community centers and next to the public housing, because those are the folks who need those free or low cost resources the most. And so the library that I was in was an urban library, and the immediate community was predominantly Black. We'd had a lot of Syrian refugees move in. There was a lot of tension, and it was low income, a lot of poverty, and everybody fighting for the same piece of pie. And the kids came in after school, and while the library system in general had a policy that, kids under 8 must be accompanied by, somebody over 12. We'd have 5 and 6-year-olds in. We kept their library cards at the front desk. And it was because the library was the only safe space for them to come because their parents were home, because their parents are probably single and having to work multiple jobs and long hours. And so, yeah, there was such ownership of the library in that community as well. It was like the library was their second living room almost.
I love it.
And I knew that I'd kind of settled in when a couple of teens marched into my office with an issue, with one of my staff. And, I loved that they just felt so emboldened, and that was their space. And it was such a privilege to be able to hold that space for them, and try and support them.
I love libraries. I love everything you've laid out. And I think just in general, any institution that is so often associated with being run, let's face it, right? The cliche is like older women. Everybody needs to stay quiet. and you think of what that usually denotes, but then you start to really think about a library, what it does for a community, and that very often, without being particularly activist, libraries naturally become, I don't want to say activist because it's not exactly the word, but they take on the tenor and tone of the needs of a community around them and become places where regular people have a safe haven and perhaps even access to resources that can launch them further than they thought they could go. I sit there, I'm like, libraries are real badass when you think about it. And I love it. I love it. When did you become a witch?
Oh, again, like early 20s. I grew up Jehovah's Witness.
Whoa, that's a big swing of the pendulum right there.
I know, right? But yeah, it was one of those things where I had cognitive dissonance about it by the time I was 8. Because, you know, I had pretty good parents. Like, I had a pretty good childhood. And my mom and dad would tell me that I could be and do anything I wanted. And then, you know, I'd get to the Kingdom Hall and I'd ask my mom why I couldn't go up and talk at the podium like the boys my age in the Tuesday night meeting. And instead I had to go and do like a little play acting thing with an older female congregation member, like pretend to be in a Bible study, all because apparently, you know, women can't minister to men, right? And so already at 8, I was kind of seeing the cracks in that. And kind of started there. And I was a huge reader, really into mythology. So I went from Greek and Roman mythology to Celtic and Norse mythology and Japanese mythology. And then mythology leads you to, you know, magic sometimes. But I also read a lot of fantasy. And then I met I met some actual witches the summer that I was 18. It was my first summer job away from home. I worked at a camp for children and adults with intellectual disabilities. And yeah, there was a couple of witches who worked there, and they were really cool. And I got to know them and got a couple of book recommendations. And then, I have a sordid life, Chris. I had a girlfriend that fall. Well, not quite a girlfriend. I met a woman out at a club, and when I was out there, I was out with my best friend, and Anyway, she ended up being the first woman I ever kissed. She was also a stripper, but she was also a witch. So, I read, I think, Starhawk's Spiral Dance and Margot Adler's Drawing Down the Moon when I was like 20 or 21, and decided, that was for me. I had to do that big pendulum swing, frankly, to get away from such a high control patriarchal religion. I was like, I didn't want to have anything to do with any god. Like, give me the goddess. Let's figure out how to celebrate who I am rather than who, what I thought of at the time as the opposite sex was. I was house sitting at a little cottage by a lake, just a couple, maybe 10, 15 minutes outside of town. And I just went out there and looked at the moon, declared myself a witch 3 times, and haven't looked back.
I love it. Now, I can't claim to be an authority on Jehovah's Witnesses in any way, but I do know that it is a religion.
You have a friend, who was, I think I remember that. Jehovah Boy? I think I've listened to that podcast.
We've had callers talk about it. I have a friend in my life who, Doug Smith runs Doug Smith runs the podcast, and a lot of it's about him talking about leaving Jehovah's Witnesses and unwrapping his experiences there and talking with other people who left. And I do know that it is a culture that has, if you leave, there's excommunication involved often, right? And
yeah,
I have to believe that, you know, and I don't paint anybody with the brush of everybody who everyone's the same way. I'm sure there's varying degrees ever, but I sit here, I go, in religions that say there's excommunication and that there, you know, there's a heathenistic world if you leave, I wouldn't be shocked if people ever said, you know, if you leave, you might fall into sin and turn into a purple-haired, polyamorous queer lady with a septum piercing. Like, this is, you have fallen into the life that I think a lot of religions might warn against. True or false?
Fact, and I didn't so much fall as fling myself gleefully.
Love that. Had a feeling.
Yeah.
Had a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was like my mom that was a Jehovah's Witness, or is a Jehovah's Witness still. And my father was not. But yeah, I ended up moving basically 1,500 kilometers away because I could not be myself where I was.
Yeah.
So I moved to a new city and recreated my life. And I think I've created one that I'm really happy with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned a few times neurodivergence. I'm wondering what form that takes on. Let's pause because this is a big question and the caller goes on a tear. And I think a lot of you out there are going to nod your heads in agreement with many things said. Since we've broken the momentum already, let's get to our ads. Why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince has the good stuff. High quality fabrics, classic fits, lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Everything I've ordered from Quince has been nothing but solid. I really like Quince. I like how they do things, and I like their product. Quince has closet staples you'll want to reach for over and over, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. The best part? Everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. And this next part is so important. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I have shouted to the hilltops about how I have 2 sweaters from Quince. They are my favorite clothing items. One of them always stays on top of my dresser so I know where it is, and if I ever need to look good, I can just grab it and go. And the best thing about it is, I will tell you, there are brands that I used to buy that were known for maybe being a little bit of like, hey, here's what you wear when you want to look good, put some money into it, and they would fall apart. And my Quince sweaters are showing no wear and tear. They look as good as the day I first put them on, and I'm actually really amazed at that quality, because that's not easy to achieve. And I'm psyched that I have my go-to items and that I don't have to feel that sadness of watching them degrade like some of these other so-called luxury brands. Keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/beautiful for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/beautiful to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/beautiful. From fitness routines to mental resilience, navigating personal goals to tackling burnout, we all need a little help being human. That's what the Life Kit podcast from NPR is here to do. If you're looking to move with more intention or just need thoughtful guidance on living better, Life Kit delivers strategies to help you make meaningful, sustainable change. Life doesn't come with a manual, but every day you're making choices, some big, some small, that shape the direction of your life. Life Kit offers real stories, relevant insights, and clear takeaways to help you meet those decision-making moments with confidence and clarity. I will tell you that Life Kit is a great show. There's some recent episodes alone that really jumped out that I enjoyed. One about getting an intentionally more boring phone that came out in early August that I love, that topic of finding ways to just physically maybe move backwards technologically in some ways to disconnect from your phone a little bit. I love it. There's a great episode about quitting and how quitting is always viewed as failure in society, but sometimes knowing when to quit is the best thing you can do. And man, is that a healthy way to think of life. And that episode was really great. I listen to Life Kit because you hear thoughtful conversations. You hear people unpacking the emotional side of personal wellness, but also the practical side. It's nuts and bolts as well. There's actionable guidance in there to use. There's no judgment. There's trusted voices. There's expert advice. There's people on this show looking to help you take the next step, however big or small. So get help tackling common issues like relationships, finances, parenting, and your career, and then walk away with a game plan you can implement right away. Life Kit is not just another podcast about self-improvement. It's about understanding how to live a little better starting now. Also want to say this is a podcast from NPR. I have long loved NPR. Support NPR. Public media is vital. It is important. Listen now to the Life Kit podcast from NPR. Thanks again to all of our advertisers. Now, let's finish off this phone call. You mentioned a few times neurodivergence. I'm wondering what form that takes on.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Man, okay. They don't tell you how important estrogen is, man. Perimenopause is a trip, and it happened for me while I was also running public libraries through a pandemic. And even afterwards, it was, I was at work from like 8 a.m. until like 6:30, 7 at night. And just, I had like 1,000 emails in my inbox and everything. I was so overwhelmed. And I'd been going to therapy and I was feeling really good about my mental health. I figured out some physical health problems that had been giving me some brain fog and fatigue, and had taken care of that. I was still so overwhelmed and struggling. And I knew it wasn't stupid. So I think I was in the right space. It was that typical, I read an article that finally resonated, because I'd been reading articles all along for several years about, women in their mid to late 30s and, getting diagnosed with ADHD, because when your estrogen drops, it takes your executive function and your working memory with it. But it didn't feel like those things applied to me. I'm rarely late. I make all my appointments. I hit my deadlines and always have, I am a very organized individual. I'm a librarian. So it didn't click until, I can't even remember what it was, but I went to see my doctor and said, I think I have ADHD. And she's like, what do you mean? And we did a little test. We did a 1-page test in the office that was enough for her to refer me. So I went to a psychologist, and I paid like $3,900 out of pocket because I was desperate, and I happened to have a little bit of savings, and I just could not wait for the public system. It was too stressed, and I was in need of help much sooner. And it was a really interesting process, I have to say. And got an 11-page report about my brain afterwards. So I got diagnosed with giftedness, ADHD, and also recommended for further testing for autism. So I got the trifecta. Because once I got started on stimulant medication for ADHD, and the Greek chorus of voices in my brain telling me all the better ways I could be doing things or how I was fucking up, yeah, that was quiet and things felt so much easier. But then because autism was was the part of my brain that was working really, really hard to keep the ADHD managed. And when all the structures that it had so carefully built over decades completely fell apart at the beginning of a pandemic because they all relied on me leaving the house. Yeah. So the autism has actually been a lot more disabling since the ADHD diagnosis. Yeah, it's been a bit of a trip.
That's
it's wild stuff.
Yeah, that's a real 1-2 combo there as far as how they bounce off each other.
Yeah. But the other piece was the giftedness. So I didn't get diagnosed until the age of 48 because I was smart enough to just make it happen anyway, despite the amount of effort that it took me. Basically, I am, I think, above the 95th percentile in a bunch of places, except for my working memory and math. There I'm normal. So yeah.
Would you recommend it to other people out there to go get the adult diagnosis?
Absolutely. Just even knowing more about your brain can be helpful. And in terms of your mental health, I know that right now I'm in therapy, with my therapist, I'm working through a lot of internalized shame, because when you grow up with undiagnosed neurodivergence, you just get told all of the time, everybody feels like that. No, that's just part of being an adult. You just have to figure out. And nobody, and when you're smart and you get good grades and you're not a problem, they just let you be because they have, more urgent things to deal with. And so the shame that kind of comes on board through a lifetime of, being called lazy, messy. My favorite one is you're wasting your potential. It leads to a whole lot of people pleasing, a whole lot of masking, which, at the age of 48, I felt like I didn't know who I was after that diagnosis, because I had been basically living my life trying not to disappoint the people around me until then. It was honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made, the best $3,900 I've spent probably. It just knowing that it is not my fault, was huge. Like knowing that, I needed more support and I didn't get it, knowing that I needed to be accommodated and wasn't, and I still succeeded and got to where I am today anyway, I felt pretty good about. If you suspect, and if you can swing it, it can be pricey. But if you have the means, I would say go for it, because it just, when you're in therapy and you're basically looking for tools to help you kind of get through life. When you have ADHD or autism or other neurodivergence, narrowing down the tool set that you need is so huge, because you could spend years and years and years just trying so many different things and none of them will work because, hey, you know what? Your brain doesn't work like everybody else's. So that's not going to work for you. Your brain doesn't build habits. It loses the dopamine on the way from producing it to the receptor. So when you accomplish a task, you don't feel accomplished. You just feel like you have to move on to the next one. Knowing all of that, and knowing how to accommodate myself has been really important the last few years. And I'm still learning. But, it allows me to be more gentle with myself. I don't ask myself, why couldn't you do that? Why, why aren't you, an adult with a house and, an investment portfolio at the age of 52? In fact, the matter is I like my brain a lot, and it has served me well, and it's really awesome. It's incredibly creative, and my pattern recognition is like extraordinary. And I'm good at a lot of stuff. So
that's awesome.
I'd say do it. Adult diagnosis can be really liberating.
I want to ask you about the polyamorous life. We've had people talk about it on the show a little bit. I want to hear how it lands for you. I also wonder, I wonder if this feels reductive. I go, there is something ADHD about not wanting to settle down. And I don't know if those two parts of your brain tie together. Or if I'm misinterpreting it with the phrase settling down at all.
Do you know how much calendaring polyamory takes?
No,
you have to be so organized.
It's actually one of the least ADHD things about you, huh?
Yeah. But I mean, I think it is all related, frankly, because a higher number of autistic and people or people with ADHD are also queer or non-binary or trans or polyamorous, because we don't necessarily see social hierarchies the same way that other people do. And we don't necessarily, our brains don't value the same things that other people do. When I figured out when I was 18 or 19 that I was bi, I think the next thought in my head was I want one of each. Because it was, 1993 or 9. I don't know if I was ever entirely invested in monogamy anyway, despite my upbringing. It just seemed like being married would, in a traditional sense, would mean I wouldn't get to do all the fun things I like to do. And it turns out that honestly, I prefer living alone. It's better for my mental health. I really, again, with the hierarchy, I really don't like hierarchy. I have adopted relationship anarchy as my particular style of polyamory. And what that means is that every relationship in your life is important. So, and should develop in ways that sustain that particular relationship. It's kind of like a smorgasbord. So I don't just have, necessarily friends and lovers. I don't have strict definitions. I love my friends. I take my friends out on dates. We're not lovers, but they are so important to my life and my emotional well-being and my mental health, and they're important to me. So I started a tradition a couple of years ago where I take a week or two off around my birthday and make dates with as many friends as I can squeeze in, and we go do things together, just one-on-one. Could be really simple. It could just be going out to a cafe for an afternoon. It could be going for a drive down the coast and going to a beach and looking at the water. Or, it could be so many different things. But that's, I like the idea of prioritizing all of my relationships, not just my romantic ones. It's, I don't know. It's, maybe not so much ADHD as, it's a much deeper philosophy for me, I think.
I don't know that I'm familiar with relationship anarchy until this call. Is this a personal philosophy, or is this, is this something that's out there?
Nope. It out there, you can find books and articles and like that relationship smorgasbord I talked about. There are like multiple illustrations and versions of that, because it's like every relationship or person or new person that comes into your life, you can, there's so many different things you could build into a relationship with that person. And in this is a little bit of corporate woo combined with a little bit of witchcraft woo, but I was taking some leadership courses a few years ago, and one of the books we were reading talked about the third entity in a relationship being the relationship itself, and that to have good relationships, you need to take the two people out of it, and both of you need to think about what will nurture the relationship between you. So if you think about it as like the third entity, sometimes that could be easier because each person can have needs, but those needs might not serve the relationship. In similar ways, when you work in a coven, you do a lot of work energetically, and you build up an entity, like a group entity that can be very similar, called an egregore. And it is one of those things, again, like that is greater than the sum of its parts. It can have a vibe. It is, and you know how sometimes you can walk into an established friend group in a room and you can feel that you don't belong.
I do know that feeling very well.
It's
yes.
kind of like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
the feeling of not belonging in a public setting? Oh, yeah. I know that one. I know that one.
Well, yeah, it's because energetically, like they've got their own space going on, right? There's like, they've got their the relationship between all of the people has created a boundary almost. So yeah. And you know what? I am a little ADHD. I've forgotten why I started talking about that.
I love it. Just go where it's going to go. I also want, with this idea of relationship anarchy, and again, some of this could be theoretical, or maybe you have lived examples you're comfortable sharing. I don't know. I wonder, you mentioned, I love the idea that you set aside time and you go, I'm just going to go on a whole bunch of dates with friends. And it sounds like the starting point is that these are platonic dates, but maybe range on up to romantic, depending on how things go. Are there also...
Yeah, it depends on the person.
I was going to ask, like, I imagine there might be a part of relationship anarchy as a philosophy that goes, we could have a platonic relationship for 25 years and then be hanging out one day, and all of a sudden it feels like on that particular day, it would feel right and good to explore sexually with each other. And then afterwards, maybe the very next day, you go, it feels like it's platonic again, and then we're friends for 25 more years. Is this a part of relationship anarchy?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because relationships and people grow and change. And so sometimes people change in ways that mean you can't have the same kind of relationship anymore. So imagine you've been with your childhood sweetheart and like just truly fully in love for 25 years. And then suddenly something happens and you're not sexually attracted to each other anymore, or one person can't fulfill that particular part of a relationship, or doesn't want to, because consent matters. So you have to figure out how the relationship needs to adapt to support that, because both partners need to have needs that need to be fulfilled, and needs change. So yeah, I mean, and then if you're a platonic friends for like 20 years, and one hot summer night, you look at each other and you're like, yeah, let's do it. And then, the next day you wake up and you're like, well, that was really fun. Brunch next week. Yeah. So entirely possible. I think the thing I love about relationship anarchy is there's an aspect of personal, like there's such an aspect of personal responsibility. Like you need to know yourself and you need to be honest with yourself for that to work. And I think why relationship anarchy works for me and my closest friends is because we decided to love each other on purpose, not just, oh, well, this is my friend and they're in my life, we're good. We love each other on purpose. You know, if, and it turns out I was the alpha of the wolf pack of neurodivergence and not the lone neurotypical I thought I was. Yeah, it's, we accommodate each other. We have a book club, for instance, a few of my friends and I, and we have a list of basically food notes. Some of them are allergies. Some of them are preferences. In our lives, allergies and preferences carry almost the same weight because when we make food for each other, we want everybody to be able to enjoy it. And yeah, so it's doing things intentionally, with purpose. And I think that is really important. Because I feel like society tends to put us all on this like inexorable relationship escalator. Okay, so if you're dating this person for this amount of time, you should be getting serious. And if you're serious for this amount of time, you should be engaged. If you're engaged for this amount of time, you get married. If you're, you know, that kind of like just like march towards you know, the societal standard. So I get off the escalator and I get to go up and down the stairs. I get to go down different paths and explore different things. And I've met some, for instance, I've made some amazing friends on Tinder. I haven't found any dates, but you know, yeah, it's just being open to possibilities and doing things intentionally, I think is my favorite bit about it.
Now, a lot of people, I think, when they hear about polyamory, might have a bit of a knee-jerk reaction of like, well, that's like a thing to experiment with in your 20s or like a phase you go through. You have mentioned you're not in your 20s. You are, in some ways, you are an elder polyamorous individual. You are an example. Yeah. For these kids out here. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't necessarily want to be example. Honestly, the kids are so much cooler. They know so much better now. Don't need to be an example. I just I'm just like, oh man, I wish that like I had your freedom or I had your vocabulary even and like the concepts, but I'm so happy that you have them and I'm just going to hang over here. And if you want to hear stories about the old days, come see me. But yeah, otherwise I'll come dance with you and stuff. But yeah,
I love that. I'm with you. I think a lot about it with kids growing up today where I go, there's something really beautiful that there are so many aspects of a young person's personality that aren't on a very strict and rigid black and white binary like they were when we grew up. Yeah. And I think, you know, people love, you know, there's comedians who have made a whole career out of making jokes about what's your pronouns. And it's such a hacky joke at this point that's been made 1,000 times. Yeah. But I do sit here and go, man, when you and I grew up, like you were straight as your starting point. And I don't think kids today necessarily think that way. Not all of them. I think they go, I'll figure it out when I get there, which is just that seems like it takes so much pressure off. And it was like, you're straight. And then if that becomes sullied with queerness, then you're gay. You're straight or you're gay. Yeah. And I sit there and I go, man, like you're saying, kids today, it is such a more in-depth conversation with a wider berth, and certainly there's still homophobia. Certainly there's still even young people who want to live in that world of that binary or are taught to. But I sit here, I go, man, young people today, it feels like there is fundamentally more acceptance and less shame surrounding a lot of things in this realm. And if that's not one of the most positive societal changes to happen within my lifetime, I don't know what is.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. I think I was reading a study a couple of years ago that said that more kids than identify as some flavor of 2S LGBTQ than, straight. I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but yeah, it's having the vocabulary means you have the concept. Having the concept means that you might be able to apply it to yourself. It means that you might be able to look for information. It means that you might be able to find other people who are like you so much sooner. And getting back to the library, I have to say a library anime club or a teen program is a really great place for all those teen weirdos and queerdos and NBs and asexuals and everybody, just to have a safe space to get together. It's just so amazing. And I know that I've had to deal with some grief. I've dealt with grief over the ADHD diagnosis and thinking, the grief of realizing that I could have had an easier life or been in a different place in my life if I'd had proper support. Similarly, I feel in many ways, if I'd had the vocabulary and the concepts, that I could have made different choices when I was younger, or I could have been happier sooner, because I have to say, again, I grew up incredibly isolated, rurally, linguistically, growing up English in Quebec, and then the religious isolation from my mom, compounded everything. And I didn't know any gay people at all. And until I went to college, and I had a couple of professors, some older gay men, and they were wonderful. I learned so much from them. It was, I don't know. I envy them somewhat, but the thing that I don't envy is that a lot of them seem to spend a lot of time putting themselves into really specific boxes and agonizing over it. And I think labels are important. It's important to feel like you know who you are, but you know what? Labels aren't that important, and you can just be you, and you can change. Because I think that is the only constant in the universe, is that you can look at something and it's going to change.
Well said. I love that we start talking about societal developments and how young people view sexuality, and then like a true librarian, you start talking about access to information and access to vocabulary, which is beautiful.
I am really passionate about it.
I love it. We're out of time. We're going to say goodbye to everybody on the free feed. Are you down to hang for a few more minutes behind the paywall and we'll get to know you a little bit better?
Absolutely.
Caller, thank you so much for calling and having so many roads to go down, so many things to say. That call was really lovely. I love that we're talking about brothels and libraries in the same call. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you to Andrea Quinn for producing the show. Thank you to Shellshag for the theme music. If you want to know more about me, including where to get tickets for our 500th episode taping, punchup.live/Chris Gethard. The voicemail is 973-306-4676. The Instagram is Beautiful Anonymous Pod. Of course, Join the Facebook community. It's a really good time. Tell people that we are out here and we exist. Thanks so much. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. Who was your first crush and why? You've touched on this a little bit.
Oh, yeah, except my first crush was probably Kermit the Frog and then Mr. Spock.
That is an amazing combination that reveals so much about who you are to this very day. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.
It's easy to know you want to make a change in your life, but it is hard to actually do it. How to Be a Better Human from TED is a podcast for when self-help feels too daunting or just not for you. I'm Chris Duffy, the host of How to Be a Better Human, and trust me, I do not have it all figured out. But join me as I talk to experts about actually attainable ways we can try to improve our lives. Whether it's facing fears, setting boundaries, cleaning your house, or all sorts of other topics. Find How to Be a Better Human wherever you get your podcasts.